Good afternoon, dear members, our esteemed speakers, my senior colleagues. A hearty welcome to all of you to today's web seminar on fostering frugal innovation engineering, the way forward in the new normal. Organized by the VDMA India in association with the Central Manufacturing Technology Institute, CMTI, Bangalore. We all hope that your families and employees are all safe and doing well. Myself, Sandeep Roy, based out of Calcutta office of VDMA, and would be taking you through the initial part of the today's webinar. Friends, as you know, the industrial activities have started to resume gradually in the country. Various business models are on high stakes, about to lose their businesses because of the unsustainable preferences in the past. Henceforth, the companies should start innovating frugally as early as possible with a more user-centric mindset for developing a product with low resources consumption, affordable, and wider knowledge transfer. So in order to discuss in details and share more insights to our members in particular, I would like to introduce and welcome very illustrious experts from the diverse field joining us in today's international web seminar. Shri Gaurav Gupta, he will be joining shortly, our Principal Secretary, Department of Commerce and Industry, Government of Karnataka. Dr. Naganumaya, Director, Central for Manufacturing Technology Institute, CMTI, Bangalore. Dr. Rajneesh Tiwari, Senior Research Fellow, Institute for Technology and Innovation Management, Hamburg University of Technology, Germany. Ms. Lisa Wolfert, Certified Scrum Master, Center of Frugal Innovation, Fraunhofer Halle, Germany. Friends, moving forward, a very brief intro about VDMA. VDMA is the largest industrial association of Europe with more than 3,300 members at its fold. VDMA started its journey in 1892. We have divided into 38 engineering verticals, and VDMA has offices across the BRICS nations, starting from India, China, Brazil, and Russia. Over 1.03 million of total employees are employed in the companies who are members of the VDMA, with a OP production out of which of 2,232 billion euro of productions, and with an export ratio of around 78%. VDMA offices in the foreign offices, out of which we started in India first, followed by China, Brazil, Russia. And friends, before we move to, we would like to remind all of you that you can post all your questions during the webinar under the question and answer session, and they will be answered during the question and answer session. And for today's webinar, we'll have a short address from Mr. Rajesh Nath, Managing Director, VDMA India. Next slide. Mr. Nath is the face of the organization who established the VDMA India offices around 2 decades before. He is accorded the Cross of Order of the Merit, the highest civilian award from the German President for promoting Indo-German trade. He has a degree in Bachelor of Engineering in Mechanical with distinction. He also has a business management degree with a first ranking gold medal from the Indian Institute of Management, Joka, in 2004. Without further delay, over to you, Mr. Nath.
Right. Thank you, Sandeep. A hearty welcome to all our participants at the webinar today, web seminar today on fostering frugal innovation in the new normal, way forward for the engineering industry. Being organized by the German Engineering Federation, VDMA, in association with the Central Manufacturing Technology Institute, CMTI, Bangalore. I extend a warm welcome to our chief guest today, Shri Gaurav Gupta, Principal Secretary, Department of Commerce and Industry, Government of Karnataka. Mr. Gaurav Gupta is expected to join us shortly. A hearty welcome to all our speakers also. Dr. Naga Hanumanaya, Director, CMTI, Bangalore. Dr. Rajneesh Tiwari, Senior Research Fellow, Institute for Technology and Innovation Management, Hamburg University of Technology, Germany. Ms. Lisa Wolfert, Certified Scrum Master, Center for Frugal Innovation, Fraunhofer, Germany. A hearty welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us for this webinar as our esteemed panelists. Friends, necessity is the mother of invention. Particularly in crisis, human beings can be resourceful in coming up with frugal solutions that get the job done. The response to COVID-19 pandemic has triggered many innovations to pressing problems. But there is much to be learned from the times of crisis or times of plenty. COVID-19 has required unprecedented responses from all countries. Such has been the speed and severity of the pandemic that few countries have been afforded the luxury of following traditional processes of testing and training new technologies, processes, and medicines. The lack of time and resources available to respond to the crisis, as well as the need for rapid scaling in every context, has led to an explosion of innovative responses. There has been some extraordinary moves. For example, India refitting their rolling stock of trains to become hospital wards for patients with COVID-19. China constructed a 1,000-bed hospital in 10 days. Distilleries have pivoted to produce millions of bottles of hand sanitizer. Nations that uphold free choice, movement and competition have suddenly foregone many fundamental values and privileges. These responses bear the hallmark of frugal innovation, that is, doing more with less and being creative, innovative, and resourceful in the face of institutional voids and resource constraints. This has been the reality of the experience of many low and middle income countries, even before the COVID pandemic, which is why so many frugal innovations have emerged. Frugal innovation has been touted for its merit in serving the needs of the poor or the bottom of the pyramid, for making business internationally competitive, and for achieving sustainable development. There are many underlying lessons. The value of humble approaches to innovation is now being seen even in the most technological advanced countries. Furthermore, the unconscious biases faced by researchers from low-income countries may be mitigated by the improved global knowledge flow, and this may result in improved uptake of innovation from these contexts. After the world finishes dealing with COVID-19 pandemic, the important lessons for humanity here might be to learn from everyone and for everyone. The pandemic may serve as the greatest leveler of our times and teach us to recognize the fragility in our systems. I would like to conclude quoting innovation and management advisor Navi Rajau, who mentioned that frugal innovation teaches how to transform adversity into opportunity and how to find creative ways to rethink the tools you already have got. Friends, innovation is going to be critical for India, not only for growth and competitive advantage, but also to ensure that our future development is sustainable and inclusive. Affordable solutions, innovative business models or processes which ease delivery of services to citizens will allow more people to join the development process and also enable looking beyond the conventional way of doing things. We look forward to the inputs from our knowledgeable speakers on this topic of frugal engineering, which has so much relevance in our country, especially now since it can drive the slogan of our Prime Minister to make India Atmanirbhar. Friends, before I call upon our Chief Guest, Shri Gaurav Gupta, for his special address, we would like to conduct a quick poll to set the tone for today's discussion. Manohar, can we have the first poll question, please? So friends, the first poll is, why is frugal innovation important in the engineering industry? Is it due to affordability? Is it due to simplicity? Or is it due to cost effectiveness? So we'll just wait a couple of seconds and wait for the for our participants to vote. Another maybe 4-5 seconds, and then we'll close the poll. Yeah, Manohar, can we close the poll, please? So let's see, friends, what the poll results are. So if we look at the poll results, I think it's cost effectiveness certainly leads the way. And then we have simplicity, and then we have affordability to why frugal innovation is important in engineering industry. So cost effectiveness is the prime driver for frugal engineering. Thank you, Manohar. Now it's a proud privilege for me to introduce our chief guest, Mr. Gaurav Gupta. Thank you for joining us. Good to have you with us here at this event today. Shri Gaurav Gupta, Principal Secretary, Department of Commerce and Industry, Government of Karnataka. He's an officer of the Administrative Service of the 1990 batch. In his present capacity, Mr. Gaurav Gupta promotes investments and industry development in the state of Karnataka. He served as chairman of Bangalore Water Board, special commissioner in BBMP, and managing director in KSRTC. Shri Gaurav Gupta has graduated in electrical engineering from IIT Kanpur, masters in electrical engineering from IIT Delhi, and executive education in public finance management from Harvard University. With his highly accomplished engineering background and career, I'm sure Mr. Gupta would find this event useful and relevant to the present scenario. Thank you, Gupta, for joining us. We look forward to your address.
Thank you, and I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible and visible. Thank you.
Right. So, thank you for your very warm introduction, and also for your opening remarks, Mr. Rajesh Nath. It's always a pleasure to be associated with you and also with the VDMA. And I'm so happy that today's webinar has been organized by VDMA, titled Fostering Frugal Engineering. And I would say that in the present times, which are difficult times, trying times for all of us, I think this is absolutely relevant and contemporary. You have cited the examples of a number of repurposing and the re-engineering that we have done. In Karnataka itself, we have seen, and I was made in charge of the COVID health supplies, and we have seen how the distillers, we worked with the distillers to see how sanitizers could be produced. There was a lot of re-engineering required as to how we can change the specs of that using ethyl alcohol from isopropyl alcohol, but number of other changes were done, and we were able to measure up to the task. Likewise, the textile and garment companies started producing masks and PPEs, and this was again Karnataka and Bangalore became the major center in India. Almost 50% of the PPEs in India. Right now we produce almost we have the capacity of 800,000 PPEs per day, and half of it is in Karnataka. So we work with textile companies as well. And then ventilators, again, I think a lot of ventilators are being done here thanks to several companies in the engineering field, medical devices field, and auto field. So all of this just goes to say that how we can repurpose ourselves and how we can do innovation and re-engineering to see that we rise up to the requirements of the times. Now, as far as this COVID crisis is concerned, I'm sure COVID crisis will also force us to look into how we can be far more cost effective. I see the poll which has been conducted just now prior to my speaking, and as 62% of people have pointed it out, it's cost effectiveness which has to drive frugal engineering. And I'm sure that the COVID can be an opportunity for us to re-evaluate our engineering processes and re-engineer in order to be far more effective and frugal. In the state, we have been working at various issues. Karnataka has been one of the major centers for manufacturing, and the machine tools and special purpose machinery and heavy electrical machinery. Beside being known as the tech center and the global IT center of the world. But insofar as these somewhat disparate things are concerned, it may be machining, it may be IT and precision manufacturing, etc. I think there's a lot of convergence that can happen here. And with the presence of Indian Institute of Science and the CMTI, I would say that we are the best positioned in order to make the opportunity of Industry 4.0, of which German industry is very much famous. I think we can make it a success. We can roll it out across and make it possible. So Karnataka is identified as engineering, machine tools, foundry cluster, and also in high value machinery. And we have advanced machine tool testing facility, highly skilled workers, and number of other major developments in the state. Now, Germany is India's second largest technology partner. We have seen Germany to be consistent among the top investing countries for India. Karnataka has been a leading destination. We have more than 200 German companies, Bosch, Daimler-Benz, BAST, Festo, EFD, Kern-Liebers, Lufthansa, Siemens, Schneider, number of them are present here. We have also had a very active role played by the GIZ for technical training. And also we have had the presence of Fraunhofer Institute, the center of that is Bangalore. And so therefore in the applied research, I think that is a very, very important role to play. So Karnataka, we are working on innovation, and we are one of the states which have been identified, the top state identified by the Niti Aayog, the Central Planning Commission for innovation. So Karnataka is #1 state. And creativity and innovation is a very natural thing to happen here in Karnataka, which is known as the startup capital, which is known as the capital for entrepreneurial activities as well. So the frugal innovation revolution in Karnataka is being led by entrepreneurs who have found solutions to various problems. And I'm sure that whether it be problems of rural areas or of health, education and agriculture, or of machining and cost effectiveness, I'm sure that Karnataka is the place to be. So we have had a close relationship with the German industry chambers, the VDMA, and we would definitely work with them to see how this can be taken forward. Now, as far as the small, I would like to also point out the focus on small and medium enterprises. We know the German Mittelstand, and we would like to see how they can work together with the small and medium enterprises in the state of Karnataka. We have seen number of other companies from Italy, Sweden, and a number of other countries who are working with us, with the local partners, to see how the products could be manufactured here, be engineered here, and be made far more effective with indigenous technologies. And the Karnataka is working on various initiatives regarding to small and medium enterprises. We are introducing a new integrated platform and a center of excellence through the Sarthak program to help small and medium enterprises to work on relevant skill sets and access to all available tools. And we know the importance of global value chains. Karnataka has been integrated with several value chains. I would notably mention aerospace and automobiles. And German company Daimler-Benz makes a lot of car designing here, and we all know about it. Bosch does a lot of engineering and research and design, and a number of other companies as well. So the focus on research and development is very, very important. driving technical competencies, working on diverse talent pools in this vibrant city of 11 million people, and driving cost saving and also leveraging the proactive government of Karnataka. So in conclusion, I would say that frugal innovation is the future of manufacturing. We hope and expect to leverage this with the support of German partners and the VDMA. We hope to also leverage the presence of CMTI. I see the director is present here in today's interaction, and also the presence of Indian Institute of Science, which again is a very premier institution, which is in Bangalore. And why Bangalore is known as a city of science and technology is thanks to very, very early days. In 1915, the Indian Institute of Science came to be established here. That shows the kind of deep-rooted place for science and technology. I'm confident that we will continue to build up a strong partnership for the future as well. I wish you all the best for today's workshop on frugal engineering, and thank you all for giving me opportunity to talk to you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Gaurav Gupta. Thank you for highlighting for your address and highlighting the capabilities that is there in Karnataka, especially in R&D sector and science and technology. As you rightly mentioned, we have CMTI, we have our Indian Institute of Science, and several German companies that are well established in Karnataka. And I'm sure the bonding between the German companies and Karnataka can be strengthened as we go forward. So thank you very much for your address, Mr. Gupta. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Over now to my colleague, Mr. Sandeep Roy, to take it forward.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Nath. Can I have our second poll, Manohar, if you can have it kindly? Yeah. Yes. Would over-engineering lose its shine to the frugal innovation post-COVID-19 pandemic? Let's see how the response comes. This is our second web poll. Let's wait for a few moments, please. Yeah. Can we have the results, Manohar? Yes, expectedly around overwhelming 54% said it loses shine because of the present crisis. So it will be only just engineering, not only the only over engineering. That will be the future actually. So friends, thank you, Manohar. Moving forward, I would like to introduce three of our esteemed speakers today, starting with Dr. Nagarumaya. Dr. Nagarumaya is a distinguished scientist, has served the CSIR Central Mechanical Engineering Research Institute, Durgapur, as the chief scientist and head Micro Nanosystem Technology Group for more than 2 decades. He has published 88 research papers, filed 4 patents, and successfully demonstrated working prototypes of 3 micro machines. He is one of the recipients of the We Think for India Award from Prime Ministers of India for Indian Manufacturing Policy, draft prepared in 2003. In 2017, he was awarded as the Distinguished Scientist by the Venus International Foundation. He is a member of the International Association of Engineers UK and member of the International Institute of Micro Manufacturing, I2M2 USA. Our next speaker is Dr. Rajneesh Tiwari, who is the Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of Technology and Innovation Management of Hamburg University of Technology in Germany. He has advised the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research concerning the new global innovation pathways and has led to investigate the potential of affordable excellence in countries such as India, Germany, Japan, and Austria concerning sectors such as food industry, automotive, and renewable energies. Dr. Tiwari is an alumnus of Japan Society for Promotion of Science and has been a visiting fellow at the several universities in Australia, India, Japan, and USA, besides being an adjunct faculty at the Manipal Institute of Technology in India. So our last speaker is Ms. Lisa Wolfert. She is a senior research scientist at Fraunhofer. Europe's largest organization for applied research. She works at the Institute for Industrial Engineering (IAO) for last 10 years on topics related to innovation and technology management, with a specific focus on strategic foresight, the human side of the research and development, and frugal innovation. Since 2018, she heads the Center for Frugal Products and Manufacturing System in Stuttgart. Lisa's experience includes consulting projects with renowned multinational corporations such as Ford, Danfoss, Bosch, Siemens Home Appliances, as well as with small and medium-sized enterprises. In addition, she was also the project leader of a number of large and complex research initiatives in Malaysia, Turkey, Australia, Brazil, and the US, China, and various European countries. Now, friends, I formally request Dr. Naganamaya for your presentation on the product innovation and manufacturing. Over to you, Dr. Naganamaya. Yeah, you are mute, I think, Dr. Naganamaya.
Hello.
Can you please unmute? Yeah.
I'm audible?
Yes, please carry.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for Mr. Nath and Principal Secretary Manohar, Sandeep, and my fellow panelists, both Dr. Manish and Dr. Liz. My presentation, primarily I will try to cover what is basically the research focus at CMTI. And basically CMTI is an autonomous institute under Department of Heavy Industry. We are primarily working on manufacturing process and machine tools. So first 3-4 slides I will cover that. Then briefly touch upon the challenges in product innovation and the role of education system in India and what we need to do in the post-COVID situation. Next slide. Here I summarize what CMTI is focused on. So we primarily, as being a national R&D institute, we focused on taking research and developing a technology and the machine tools and train manpower and deploy them into industrial applications. So CMTI started in 1962. Since its inception, we have developed about 500 technologies, and all these technologies have been used in industrial applications. Today, we primarily focused on these sectors: ultra precision machine tools. Here, the idea is we build machines which are capable of creating microns to few nanometer features with the accuracy level of at least 10 to the power of -5. And we also build a range of special purpose machines. Here, the problem is defined by our customer, and we build a machine. So this includes, like, we recently built a high-speed rapier loom, and we continuously supply the mixers, planetary mixers, which are being used in strategic sectors. We have almost 22 mixers we have supplied for mixing the solid satellite rocket motors fuel. Then we also have a group like sensors and controllers. This primarily, as we build machines, so we require a lot of sensors and controls. And then the textile machinery, as I said, the high-speed rapier loom, and now we are building further high speed. Right now we build up to 450 RPM, and we are looking for building machines about 700 plus. Then Bangalore being an aerospace hub, so we have a aerosystems laboratory. We primarily work with ADA, ADE, HAL for testing their LRUs and establishing the manufacturing process protocol. And the USP of CMTI in aerospace is we design our own test rigs, and we will also maintain the test rigs for a limited period. Then with respect to precision metrology, we primarily focused on dimension metrology. So in India, we are the #1 as far as dimension metrology is concerned. Then smart manufacturing and industry 4, this is last 3 years CMTI is working. Here what we are trying to do is we are trying to build a ingenious and ingenious technology which are required to demonstrate smart manufacturing. That means converting the legacy machine into a smart machine. I think I have 1 or 2 slides I will show you. Then additive manufacturing is another area where CMTI is working. CMTI is providing services with respect to metal-based additive manufacturing for over a decade. Now we are building a machine which is of larger scale, like 2 meters by 1.2 meters by 500 millimeter. That is what the machine which we are building, particularly for targeted customer of aerospace, where the component needs to be tested on full scale. And training, of course, CMTI is well known in the particularly the training of practicing engineers. We offer annually about 55 to 60 programs and customized program both at customer site as well as at CMTI. Maybe closely 25 programs, particularly even many industries when they recruit fresh engineers, so they send them to CMTI for a training of 1 to 2 months. While we're doing this, yes, Made in India is our basically the focus, and now we're looking with more emphasis on transferring this technology and then incubation of startups. CMTI, as of now, we have about 45 technologies which are ready for commercialization. Almost all 45 technologies are related to manufacturing. These are the samples I just populated just to realize that what kind of machines we build. If you look at the top one, this diamond turning machine. So diamond turning machine, I think we are the third in the world. And these machines are already commercialized. We installed 2 machines in India, one of the Indian customers. And the third machine, if you see, this machine is additive manufacturing machine for the polymer to produce the micro components. This machine is capable of creating a 5 micron features on photopolymer. And we also build a lot of instrumentations. This is one of the system that is STM, which is can easily used in engineering schools and with a lot of cost competitiveness. And while building these machine needs a lot of aggregates, which are again not made in India. So these are the aggregates, sample aggregates like aerostatic slides, aerostatic spindles, spindle error analyzer, and all these kind of advanced machine tool aggregates, which are being used in a range of smart and as well as the precision machine tools we build. With this, we also have a facility. This facility is created because all of you can appreciate, because these are expensive facility. We have created a micro nano machining center. We will also provide solutions to the industry. Our current capability with respect to manufacturing is we can produce the features as small as about 7 nanometer on the metal. That is the manufacturing capability which we have today. So next slide, please. These are other machines like SPMs. These are larger machines we built for various customers for a defined task. So here normally problem is defined by the industry. We build the machine tools or special purpose machines and test rigs to perform a specific task. You can range of machines, but I will try to identify like the right top corner. It is a parallel kinematic machine. Globally, I think only 2 manufacturers, and this parallel kinematic machine is developed by CMTI, and now we are looking for a technology transferring to make it multiples. Next slide.
Yeah.
If you look at post-COVID situations, of course, it's debatable, but what I look at is the post-COVID ME, particularly MSMEs suffer a lot. Now for MSME, priority becomes survival, recovery, and being or remaining healthy business. So this is because the market has become volatile, so demand is not there, and at the same time there is no visibility with respect to supply chain. So now the challenge naturally is how to sustain economically with this resulting doubts and uncertainty on the demands. The opportunity, what I would thought is that to survive and recover in sustainability, we have to look at the cost competitiveness. Maybe we need to forgive some of the services which we were otherwise regarded like premium services. Primarily, in fact, last survey it was clearly indicated that over engineering need to be relooked and look at what is there on low hanging fruits and what is already demonstrated. So I think justifiable optimization on this is it is a low hanging fruits. So that would be one of the solutions available for the MSME. And then all along we are always fighting like there are two approach. One is if I quote a Ministry of Commerce and Industry survey conducted sometime in 2015, the Indian industry innovation, so 64% of industrial innovation is due to the company, while new to India was 9% and new to world was less than 3%. So that means industries were primarily innovative to survive. So that normally termed as jugaad innovation, and is mostly the individual problem focused or industry focused. They try to solve the problem. But now, yes, there is a trend is moving towards digitized, distributed, and collaborative innovative system. So I think now, of course, India is well known for cooperative movements. I think we look at the opportunity to innovate for the mass instead of looking at innovating for my survival. I think that is where the government of India establishment like us and the private industries like MSME and the large industry can join together to build this ecosystem. Then yes, the innovation cycle broadly covers this chain. It is an integrated and inclusive approach, product, process, machine, and materials, while we CMTI focused on second and third. But yes, now there are many opportunities are available, but immediate requirement is what is there in the off the shelf and how to customize to meet my requirements. I think that would be the immediate approach. So the short-term focus of MSME, and then prepare for the tomorrow, because it is everyone known that the technology leadership drives the business. So definitely cost, quality, when we look at technology makes the difference. And second is, yes, so COVID has also created some opportunity, both the geographical advantages, and second is the health emergency. So whether the industry can look at whether we can able to accommodate ourselves to the new change in demand or new demand raised as and due to the health emergency or the geographical disturbances. So that means we should grab an opportunity. Next slide. Yes, the previous slide, please. So now it is not that easy in MSME. There, the reason is I will just look at product innovation. So product innovation, or if you look at products originated in our country, so then I think we have little sorry figure, because I clearly quoted the we are innovative, but we are innovative to our industry, means my company, but to the global market or to the even Indian market, our contributions is very low. So there are many reasons I listed. Of course, this is again debatable. Yes, we need to look at these issues. There are some are related to education, some are related to individual passions, and then the government ministries has to push in this, because still Indian companies are not in a position to spend few millions to develop a technology which is otherwise costing, end of the day, is fraction of millions or few thousands. And yes, we are good at my desktop, but working in a team is always an issue. I think we need to build this into our organizational systems. Next slide. This is one example. Like I always, wherever I present that this slide, I normally show. This is current engineering output, current engineering students output coming from the colleges. If you ask this kind of questions to the engineering students, there are very few students could able to identify this water bottle as 4 parts. and even sometimes they find a difficulty to identify product and part. And second is definitely it is not taught in the engineering school about their importance with respect to manufacturing, like whether it is made by same material, if not, then how they are different. Even people, many of the students are finding difficulty to differentiate the between the parts. I think this is where governments has to play key role. We need, because the reason is we not to blame students. The idea is our education system has become percentage focused. So we teacher as parents, we all taught them how to score 98, not 95. So naturally that focus is diverted towards something. On the other hand, the institute like IITs, the very few are remained as an engineers. So I think this is where the major changes to be done if we really wanted to have innovative India ecosystem. Next slide. This is another aspect which is not appreciated in the engineering schools. Well, no matter what product you build, so these 5 F's has to be remembered. We basically engineers deal with form, function, flow, physics, and fabrication. Unfortunately, for an engineer, 1 plus 1 will never be a 2. It is always either 2 plus or 2 minus. So now, how closely I can be reached to 2, either on plus or minus side, if you reduce the difference, so that requires the knowledge on these 5 F's. I think this is where we need to focus both as practicing engineers as well as the engineering students. So next slide, please. And also there are fundamentals. There are many engineering students are now try to complete an exam, score marks. But this is one example. If you look at the manufacturing process, no matter, you can list maybe 100 manufacturing processes, but if you group them broadly, these could be grouped in this. So at least I have not find any manufacturing process which could not be grouped under this. Say for example, either we remove a material or we shape the material with change in phase, without change in phase, or adding a material and then the new member like biomanufacturing, self-assembly, self-organization is mostly chemistry-driven processes, chemistry and biology-driven processes. So if I take a removing of a material, I'm sure any mechanical engineer can appreciate the basic concept which we used in many of the tool-based manufacturing process is still we follow the Stone Age principle. So that is where this importance has to be taught in the engineering school. So next slide, please. Yes, this I already covered the many engineering industries. No, previous slide. Many engineering industry are dependent on skill sets. The skill sets are developed by traditionally from transferred from many times it's a family business, and very poor documentation is there. I will quote one example, my own experience. I worked in Durgapur for last 2 decades in CME or a CSR laboratory. As a part of my assignment, I closely work with, I think Rajnath can easily appreciate, there is a Baraivpur surgical cluster. So if you visit there, I visited 8 times. So you can name any steel and stainless steel and titanium based surgical tools they made. But that kind of accessories or the facility which they have is the jewelry, file sets, yarn grinder, yarn drill. I will give you one example which I witnessed. There is a guy whom some name Mandal, I forgotten his name. He used to make ophthalmologist forceps. There is a small hole of about 782 microns. He has to drill this hole with the diameter, that is the feature diameter was 782. On the base metal is the spherical. It is about 1.2 if I remember exactly. So that is drilled by manually. That is the kind of skill sets they have. So Jugaad innovation is still the USP of many of such manufacturing industry. But yes, there is also example. Our Maruti is one where the technology has been adopted, but now competition is a different competition. So one has to be different from others. So we need to be innovate. Or of course, innovation is not only on technology, on many fronts. The previous slide. If I quote, this is not my statement. It is there is a program vision, future vision for the manufacturing. There was a US survey was there. So future manufacturings are stimulated by smart and intelligent systems. It is integrated with sensors network driven by adaptive controls, and it is distributed with high degree of mass customization. And manufacturing processes could become intelligent, highly predictable. So that naturally force that machine tools should be agile, reconfigurable, and same machine could be used to make at least range of products or similar products or family of similar products. So if this is the future, so naturally with respect to machine tools I listed here, so similarly it could happen many changes in the other area too. This would necessitate the interchangeability to a capital goods like machineries and its aggregates. Machines will be built with modular design that will have high flexibility and reconfigurable capabilities. Drives and controllers would build over adaptability driven by artificial intelligence. And the new process like additive manufacturing process would emerge as an alternative production process. Of course, yes, design for additive manufacturing and all other challenges need to be addressed. But this is what the future direction. So this need to be cope up by an MSME. That is where the innovation makes a difference. The next slide. So here kind of a summarize. If we look at engineering of multi-scale parts, one has to be innovative on all the three fronts: manufacturing process, manufacturing and equipment and machines, manufacturing systems and factories. So when we are looking multiple scale, again there is an issue scaling effects. So one has to look into that. The technology, process, and even the material processing mechanisms are changing with respect to when you talk about micro or nano scale. And then modularity and adaptability for similar design and for the multiple scales is always remains challenge. So the machines and the manufacturing factories are becoming intelligent and autonomous systems. The next slide. So with this driving CMTI, particularly our Ministry of Heavy Industry, Department of Heavy Industry has funded 4 such centers. Smart Manufacturing Center. One center is at CMTI. This basically we try to develop the technologies in India which are required to demonstrate a smart factory. All you know, smart factories basically emphasize Industry 4 emphasize on 4: understanding your process based on the realistic data acquired from the source, and then digitize and share and do analytics for the purpose, the set purpose, like means your business guy wants a different set of analytics, production guy wants a different type of analytics. Then you can automate. It's not necessary that you can have to automate by using a manufacturing robotics and all, but you can also automate your decision making. That is what the I4 which we look at. Next slide. So our center, we focused on this. We are working on smart machines and devices, smart manufacturing protocols, then the training, and there are 7 industries have joined with us. Our idea is at the end of this project, the technologies which are required to demonstrate or to establish a smart factory are being available on for the MSME. It's not that this technology to be developed, all technology to be developed by India, by CMTI alone. So all these industries have, we identified, you can show that, say for example, Uttunga, it is a software company, Indian companies established in 2007. Now with them, we are trying to develop IoT enabled solutions, how to convert the legacy machine to a smart machine and then machine connectivity. But the company like Hexagon, we work with smart factory and digital twin. So Siemens is again for spindles and aggregates. Next slide. This is what we wanted to have. By end of this 2020, this smart factory will be established at CMTI. This is a test bed for individual developer. They can test their developments, and at the same time, this is also kind of a proven case. So for an MSME, so one can establish or the different versions of smart factory, which will have the legacy machine as well as the new machines. So this setup will be there. I invite all of you to visit my end of this year. We will you can make a visit and have a feel. Yes, this collaborative innovation, as I already said, open and collaborative innovation is the trend. We have to innovate for us, not for me. I think that openness has to come. We need to develop the technology because technology development is a long cycle, and at the same time it is an expensive business. And second is this is one of the issue in many of our R&D establishment. Technology is not developed and sustainably because of continuity of the research is always some issues because of the fund availability, change of priority, those kind of things. And we need to make, this is one team where I am there. This is one of the project, Smart Foundry, which is funded by Department of Science and Technology. It started when I was in my previous institute. There are where the 10 institutes and 12 researchers joined together to develop a miniaturized foundry, which could be established in 25 meter square area. So which can capable of 1 kg aluminum casting. I think that is where the strength lies. We need to work together. I think this is my last slide. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Namagramiya, for an insightful presentation and sharing the various initiatives of the CMTI, the engineering education, the role of MSME, and the futuristic of manufacturing technologies. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Rajneesh Tiwari, for his presentation on frugal innovation, mastering the challenges in the post-corona world. Over to you, Dr. Tiwari.
Yes, thank you very much. And yeah, distinguished fellow speakers, honorable host, I'm really looking forward to my talk. First of all, thank you very much for this invitation. And I wish to speak on how frugal innovations and frugal engineering in particular can help us master the challenges in the post-corona world. And in fact, Mr. Rajesh Nath, Shri Gupta, and also Dr. Nagahannamaya have really given some very useful initial ideas, and also from the polls that you have conducted, there are some interesting ideas which I would like to connect to in the next slides. And unfortunately, when I made my slides, I was not aware that there would be this navigation, so I would have to keep on saying next. So please excuse that and please move on. So I would not speak much about me. I've been introduced already. So just one thing, you see here, there is a working paper which is called Opportunities of Frugality in the Post-Corona Era. This is one of our new publications where we explicitly talk about this theme and what is probably the scenario about innovations and why frugality might play a role and in what situation. So if you are interested, please have a look at this web page, which is available free of charge. Thank you very much. To the next slide, please. Yes, and we have established a Center for Frugal Innovation in September 2013. We have been involved in this research now for a long time. We do teaching, research and policy guidance and industry collaboration as a part of the Center for Frugal Innovation at Hamburg University of Technology. And if interested, just please have a look. And the next slide, please. Yes, we have been doing a lot of research in this area, and practically every year there has been some publication related to frugal innovation. So lots of books that have been published, and one of the books is now expected to come early next year. So this is the part which was about a brief introduction. Next slide, please. So what I want to speak with you today about is, first of all, to see how COVID-19 can act as a driver of affordable excellence. And then, as already has been mentioned today, we have to question the dominant logic of product innovation, of research and development. What is needed? Is over engineering really something great that we would like to have? So we have to see what is the dominant logic of consumption and of innovation, and where do we need a re-questioning? Then why I believe, and obviously we all believe here, that frugal innovation can be a potential solution. And then how frugality can be implemented in the innovation process. So this is the agenda. Next slide, please. So as has been mentioned a couple of times, but we have not talked yet about figures and facts. So the International Monetary Fund, in April 14, they announced that the present corona crisis is going to have an impact which is about 30 times larger than the financial crisis of 2008-9. At that time, the global GDP shrunk only by 0.1% because some advanced economies were affected, but by and large, the major emerging economies, most importantly, obviously China and India, they continued to grow significantly, even if the growth rate slowed down, but the growth remained nonetheless. And so if in April 14, on April 14, 2020, IMF was expecting 3.0% shrinkage of global GDP. It was already 30 times larger than at that time in 2008-9. And on 24th June, they came up with a new estimate which says it would shrink even by 4.9%. So almost 50 times larger is the impact of COVID-19 than of the financial crisis in 2008 and 9. And with that, we can imagine what it is going to mean in terms of the availability of resources. How many people are going to lose their jobs? So there would be an impact on the supply side and on the demand side. Many industries would not be able to compete anymore. The global supply chains are affected, etc., etc. So we can all safely presume that we are dealing with something which is unprecedented. Next slide, please. But at the same time, as has been mentioned previously, this is also an opportunity for ingenious creativity. We see here, for instance, in Germany, a research by the KfW Bank said SMEs are responding creatively to the coronavirus crisis. So they're coming up with solutions which can help them in the short run. At the same time, we also see in India institutions like the IIT Roorkee or this small company in Pune, MyLab, they created solutions in a very fast way to deal with the corona crisis. And in fact, like the slides are not made today, but today I read a report from the IIT Delhi, which has launched another detection kit, which is costing only 655 rupees. And now you can imagine it's like costing less than $10. And if we were doing the same testing here in Germany, it costs somewhere between 200 and 300 euros. So what's the reason? How can you do it? Is it just like you could strip down the product and you could say, this is what frugal innovation is about? No. What they have done is they have found a new way to do things. It's a disruption. What they have found is that this virus has some unique regions, which is different from other types of coronaviruses that are already known to us. So now they can simply go directly for identifying those unique regions. So this is one idea, how you could call it jugaad maybe in some ways, but this is how they got a new idea. And this idea has been implemented in a cost-effective manner. And what it does is it increases affordability. And then I'll come to that point because in one of the polls, most of the people said it is about cost effectiveness, but I beg to differ. I would say it is much more about affordability. And then I'll talk about the reasons why I believe that's the case. Okay, next slide, please. So you can make another click, please. So the animation comes two clicks probably, or three. So what's the dominant logic? What drives consumption? So there has been a presumption in the industrialized world, especially, that there is a high demand for high-tech, expensive, highly sophisticated products and services, because there are consumers who have a high purchasing power or a growing purchasing power. And there is this great slogan, which I really cannot even believe, but way back, about 20 years back, I went for the first time to London, and in a mall, I saw a big banner saying, "I shop, therefore I am." So it was a very much consumption-driven society. And as a side result, of course, earlier the gadgets were the fatter ones and we were the thinner ones, but now the situation has changed. Is it affordable in today's age? Can we continue to go on consuming the way consumption has been done so far? Can we simply, even on the supply side, continue to make products that are not really needed by people, who do not have features that are required by people, but have hundreds of others that are required and that are not required and are present? So just to give you one example, if everyone on this planet was to adopt the lifestyle of a typical European, then one Earth would not be sufficient. We would need 3 planets. And if we were going to adapt the lifestyle of an average American, then the estimations say we would need not 1 planet or 3 planets, but 7 planets. We do not have that luxury. So this is one of the drivers of frugal innovation that we have to keep in mind, not only on the demand side, but also on the supply side. Next slide, please. So basically what I mean to say is that we have to transit to a new normal. The old way of doing things, the old innovation pathways are with really high probability not going to succeed, at least not uniformly. We do not need to emulate what has been done so far. And the corona crisis is not just about the corona crisis itself. We also have got other problems like the environmental issues that we have got, the overconsumption of resources, the food security issues, the need for affordable healthcare. If we do not take care of them, we are not going to be able to maintain law and order in the world, and all that refugee crisis, etc. It would be impossible to manage if we are not taking care of those things which are addressed through sustainable development goals. And Dr. Dirk Massner, president of German Environment Agency, said, we believe that the current coronavirus crisis also offers a unique opportunity so that we can rethink current models of business and shape a new economic start on a more sustainable and future-proof basis. So this is where frugality comes into play. This is where frugal innovation can play a big role into this. Next slide, please. We have an over-engineering problem, and this cartoon maybe most of you would not be able to understand because it's written in German, but it's not just for Germany. It shows, I'll explain it for those of you who do not know German. Supposedly, if you go abroad and you want to purchase a train ticket or for the bus, it's so easy, put money here, card here, press button, take your ticket. But if you're in Germany, it's so complicated that, and now without a joke, you're likely to miss your next connection before you have really purchased the ticket. And it's almost always very complicated. So is this required? Do we need this? Why do we do it? So next slide, please. So over-engineering does not work. And one example, which is a very well-known example, General Electric came up with an electrocardiogram, which was called initially Mac 400 and Mac 800, Mac I, which is 20 times cheaper than the next product in the range. In the US, you would pay for an ECG machine $10,000, and this one developed in Bangalore in India for $535. 20 times cheaper, portable, easy to use, robust, can deal with electricity outages or with dust, for example. So a very good case of frugal solutions. Next slide, please. And you can press the button twice. I believe there's some animation on the slide. No, to go back. Yeah. So what it does is it makes use of, for example, and this is where frugal engineering comes into play. It makes use of things that are already available on the shelf on the one hand, so that you can reduce your product and development costs. And you can make use of open standards, you can use interfaces, make use of commercially available things, but at the same time, it uses the same algorithm as a high-end ECG machine. So it uses software as a platform, it guarantees that you have high quality. Very few buttons so that people can use it. Simple alphanumeric displays, so easy to use, no unnecessary features are added to this. So this is the direction in which we have to go. Next slide, please. And there are some more examples from India, especially for frugal innovations, which have come, and courtesy and the Anjani Mashilka Foundation, I found some examples, especially the case of Netra, which is a portable, non-invasive, low-cost device for pre-screening of 5 major eye diseases related to cataract, diabetes, etc., for 1/6 of the cost. And why I picked up this example to describe frugal innovation, it connects very well to what was discussed earlier. Frugal innovation has been traditionally described as being very much focused on core functionalities. And this example shows us it does not always have to be the case. It can deal all together with 5 major eye diseases. So it has to be a context-specific solution. You should not have dogmas like whether I want to do it just for one thing or the other thing. Find out what is the core requirement, what are the aspirations of people, what are the requirements of people, and how can I best solve them. And then we move in the direction of affordability. Affordability cannot be achieved without being cost effective, but it is much more than just being cost effective. And I'll speak about that in a minute or so. The next slide, please. And very importantly, affordable excellence is not jugaad. This word has been used a couple of times today. Jugaad can be sometimes useful for improvising solutions, but jugaad is not going to solve our problems in the long run. Yes, we can make a bicycle which can float on water. It's a great idea. Hats off to the innovator. But with due respect, we still need a bridge to cross the river. It does not help us all if we reach the other shore with wet clothes. Suppose if the small children are going to the next school, to the next village, we cannot let them go with this bicycle. So jugaad is good. Grassroots innovations are great, but we still need things that can help us improve our standards of living in a sustainable manner, in a regulatory conforming manner, in a qualitative manner. And similarly, all those small sachets, they are nice to have, but they cause tremendous environmental damage. We cannot simply go on doing those things the way they have been done so far. Next slide, please. So I already talked a bit about the question of affordability and how it is different from being cost effective. So traditionally, we have, when we have talked about frugal innovation, we have always talked about being cost effective, reducing the costs. But the new research in this domain goes into the direction that it is not just about the monetary capacity to pay. What we also need to take care of is that it is socially justifiable. We cannot simply go on creating more cost-effective, let's say, illegal drugs, weapons for non-state actors, fair and lovely creams which might not be helping people. So there may be many things which could be made cost-effective, but they are not socially justifiable. Third aspect, infrastructural reasonability. When we come up with a solution, it should jig well with the given infrastructure that we have. If you are creating a solution for rural India or for anywhere else around the world, you cannot presuppose certain things which are not there. If your solution, for example, requires a broadband internet connection and it's not there, then it will not work. You cannot expect from your user, consumer, or otherwise B2B or B2C that they first invest a tremendous amount of money in the infrastructure in order to use your product, and it will not work out. And finally, but also very importantly, the environmental sustainability. If our product cannot cater to environmental sustainability, then it is going to lose out sooner or later, because this is a pressing challenge today, and we have to take care of that. Then excellence is not merely about hyper technological complexity or the maximum possible technological performance. Excellence is created when we can find or create highly effective solutions in a resource efficient manner. So the effectiveness of the solution and resource efficiency, this is what denotes excellence, and not just the maximum possible, theoretically possible technological performance. Next slide, please. So a couple of years back, we were doing a research project where we looked into technical inventions, and we analyzed a number of patents, where we could identify them being something which was related to frugality. So it was about inventions, not innovations, but those technologies were frugal. And through that analysis, a pattern emerged, which I would introduce briefly. And those of you who are interested in better or more elaboration can contact me later on, or can find that work, which has been published as working paper. So on 6 dimensions: design and development, performance features, production, distribution, customer orientation, and sustainability, what we discovered was that, for example, in design and development, those inventors who were doing frugal inventions, they opted for a compact design. They were looking at the reduction in number of physical parts, use of easily available components, technologies such as ICT gadgets, and very often a collaborative development in the open global innovation networks across firm and national boundaries. And this is like, I think just today, Dr. Mashelkar said, being Atmanirbhar, independent, self-reliant, also means that we work in or integrated with global supply chains, with global knowledge networks. It does not mean that we have to just do everything on our own, but that we have the capacity to do things on our own and then to collaborate. High quality, high reliability, reduction in number of production steps, cost and time effective production, cost effectiveness in storage and logistics, use of digital channels, better adaptation to unmet customer needs, easy access and high affordability, and reduction in need for material and minimizing waste. So this is what we have identified as being core intrinsic parts of frugal engineering through that patent analysis. Next slide, please. And through this research and some more which we have done in the automotive industry in India and in Germany, what we have seen is that there are certain pathways of affordable excellence, which is for us equivalent to frugal innovation. First of all, it is driven by 4 factors. There is a pressure to reduce costs. There are increasing regulatory standards. There is a need for sustainability, and digitalization is creating new avenues. Then frugal innovation are at their core having customer-specific value proposition. So very specific, very context-sensitive value proposition. Minimal use of resources and an affordable total cost of ownership, not just the price point, including repair, including operational issues, including disposal at the end of the day. So the total cost of ownership has to be affordable. For that, we have to create frugal designs. We cannot simply strip down a product of its features and then hope it will work. It does not work in most of the cases. And we need to have a frugal culture in the company, so a corporate culture which supports frugality. Okay, next slide, please. And so how can frugal innovations be implemented? And I believe there are 3 core issues. First of all, we need, and the most important part is this one, we need to have a strategic intent. The company must be able to identify those market segments where it is going to be required. What is happening in the post-corona world, or even prior to corona? What are the growing segments? Where do we have this saturation? So new avenues coming because of global sustainable development goals. So the strategic intent to develop frugal innovation, the top management support is required. Social awareness. We need to understand what's going to happen to the environment. We need to understand why do we need to be resource efficient? Why we cannot simply go on emulating the previous pathways of innovations. And then we need organizational agility with digital transformation, with collaboration. We need to move fast along the value chain, think fast, act fast, fail fast, succeed fast. Design thinking, all those issues that would come up. So they will enable us to create frugal solutions. Thank you. The next slide, please. And with that, I come to my concluding slide. Frugal innovation is for me not just about more from less for more. This is how it has been defined so far in many research papers. It's not wrong, but now there is time to move on. We need to not simply say frugal innovation is about finding a particular solution with the most cost-effective things. No, it is about achieving affordable green excellence. Affordability is the necessary condition. Without this, it cannot work. We need green because without green, it will fail sooner or later because the state is going to intervene or whatever is going to happen. But without addressing environmental issues, it will not work. Without excellence, it will not work. So we are going to live in a frugal age, affordable green excellence, which is powered by digital transformation. And this excellence, and this is the core difference to what was said with more from less for more. Excellence from less for all and anyone, because digitalization allows us to create context and user-specific solutions. We do not have to always think of economies of scale. With 3D printing, with additive manufacturing, with other things, we can create solutions which can be very specific to a particular person's needs and even then be highly affordable. With that, yes, next slide, please. And yeah, thank you very much for your attention. And I look forward to any discussion and questions afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tiwari, for a very insightful and enriching presentation, sharing the various facets of frugal innovation with an affordable excellence. Thank you very much. I just gently remind all our audience, in case if you have any questions, just post your questions. We will have a dedicated question and answer session after the end of the presentations. Just post your question there. Now I'd like to invite our last speaker, Ms. Lisa Wolfert, for a presentation on frugal innovation, making more of less in times of crisis. Over to you, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Yeah, my name is Lisa Wolfert and I work for the Fraunhofer Institute for Industrial Engineering. You already introduced me earlier, so I won't say a lot about that, just a few short things about Fraunhofer. We're the largest organization for applied research in Europe, and we understand ourselves very much as a translator in between research and industry. So we are scientists, but we work on applied research. So we always look at how can this be used by industry, and we also consult industry on how to use new scientific inventions, new scientific insights. Next slide, please. We have a Center for Frugal Products and Manufacturing Systems in Stuttgart, Germany, which focuses on bringing forward research on frugal innovation, but also, as I just mentioned, making the transfer to the industry. So we make short-term consulting projects and long-term consulting projects, and we have a number of events, seminars, and so on. For example, last year we hosted the InnoFrugal conference in our facilities, and yeah, this year, because of the current crisis, we haven't had a lot of face-to-face events, but we made a pretty smooth change to online events. So we're also hosting a lot of these events as you're participating in now. Next slide, please. Okay, right now it's just me speaking, but of course I'm not alone. We have two heads of the Center of Frugal Products and Manufacturing System. That's my colleague Uwe Schleinkofer and me. And then we have a team of other researchers supporting us, depending on the subject matter. So we have experts on agile development approaches, for example, on human-machine interface. We have foresight experts and other topics. So so that we can make sure that when we work on projects, we have the best team available. Next slide, please. This is the overview on what I'm going to present. I'll give you a short insight into some Frugal solutions, especially in the current COVID crisis. I'll show you some examples of what we've been doing in our projects, some of our lessons learned, and then something about trends and outlook. Next slide, please. What Ranish Tiwari already told you is frugal innovation is not only about affordability, but affordability is one of the main drivers. So there is a big market, like a big business to customer, but also business to business market that is driven by affordability, by people looking for a more affordable solution to what is currently available on the market. Next slide, please. The other thing, however, is simplicity. And this is, as you already learned, especially true for Western markets, for European markets, because we have a high number of very complex machines, like washing machines, like ticket machines, and so on. And people are more and more fed up with over-engineering. They want to have something very simple that is super easy to use. And this is also a strong driver for frugal innovation, because frugal innovation brings these two dimensions together. Next slide. Next, please. Okay, so this is the definition we work with. We call frugal innovation, we say, when we talk about it, we say frugal innovation is actually about smart simplicity. So being simple, but in a smart way. And that means that you have a solution that is affordable, of course, as we just said, but it's also modest in that it restricts functionality to the core of what is really important. They are usually very robust, which means they have a good quality. You know, they are reliable, easy to use, and they're not like, you don't use any weak materials or something to make it frugal, but you really put a strong emphasis on mastering the balance between a good, robust quality and a simplicity and a restriction on the other hand. Then sustainability is also core of frugal innovation, and sustainability means all three pillars of sustainability. So it means frugal solution has to be economically viable, of course. A lot of people come up with a good idea, but they can't make it work from a financial point of view, and then they just don't survive on the market, okay? Or they don't manage to scale it up. So economical viability is important, but of course also environmental and social aspects are core to frugal innovation. If you just try and make something cheaper by, for example, by having worse working conditions, this will not help you to come up with a frugal solution. You have to find a smart approach to realize it. And then the last thing, the targetness or focus, we sometimes call it. This is for me really the core of a frugal solution. If you want to make something simple, you have to make very radical decisions, and you can only do that if you decide on who do you focus on in the core. And this is how frugal innovation works, and I'll show you some examples. Next, please. So this is the example of a small social enterprise in Austria. They've developed a solution for water disinfection. And it works with this very simple principle. If you put a bottle of water in the sunlight, after a while, most of the bacteria will be killed by the sunlight. People don't rely on that system. Why not? Because of course you don't know when is the water drinkable. Next slide. So this company, Helios, they come up with a very small device. Next slide, please. That you can, no, back. This one, yes, thank you, that you just place next to the water bottle, and then it tracks like how intense is the solar, how intense is the sunlight, and how long has the bottle been exposed, and then it tells you, okay, now you can actually drink it safely. So that's a nice example of how you can be simple in a very smart way. And again, it's a very environmental friendly solution because it uses sunlight instead of a battery. Next slide, please. There are also some interesting examples in the manufacturing area, manufacturing field. For example, Basler, they develop industry cameras for production lines, and they have complex, bigger cameras for various applications. And then the engineering team, they came up with the idea to have something very simple, small, that is only usable in certain contexts. And next slide. And they developed that frugal innovation, which is called the DART camera. And this is interesting because it was not driven by the market, but by the engineers themselves. They came up with that idea and they saw a potential market, but they were unsure if they should do it because, of course, they have also the highly complex ones. But in the end, they decided to go for it, and it's been very successful since. Next slide, please. Okay, and another example in manufacturing is from a company called Storak. They have CNC machines, and again, they have complex machines that can be customized to the specific application area of the customer that can do multiple things. Next slide, please. But then they found that actually they need something more simple as an entry-level product, so they came up with the CNC machine HEC 400F. Which is more small, simple, and it's not customized. This is like for a specific user group, and it comes as you use it as it comes. Okay, it's just it's bought as it is, and this helped them to reduce it to a very simple but still high quality machine that is affordable for an entry level. Next slide, please. COVID has been a strong lever for frugal innovation, as you've probably known. I think a lot of you have heard of the example of Decathlon, where a small Italian startup used Decathlon snorkeling masks to start frugal innovation, or to adjust them as a ventilator for hospitals, a very frugal ventilator. Next slide, please. And there have been other examples. You already heard that medical sector, of course, is one of the ones that has had a lot of need for frugal solutions in the COVID crisis right now. And a tool that has often been used is crowd challenges, like online challenges, where everybody can contribute ideas. For example, this was a challenge supported by Agorize, a French startup called Agorize, for a hospital and a health center that was also targeted at the development of simple ventilators. Medical, however, isn't the only field that has been interesting. If you look at the next slide, please. One of the fields that we've also seen growing is delivery, online delivery. And this is the example of a mobile app that was developed in Uganda so that people can purchase online fresh fruits and vegetables from markets. So instead of going there, they can just purchase it online. And this of course has proven really valuable in the current crisis, because a lot of people had to quarantine, or they just wanted to avoid markets with a lot of people, so they started to buy online instead. So this solution that was started in 2018 has had quite a boom right now. Next slide, please. Another example is learning. At least here in Germany, the schools were closed. They are still partly closed, so kids had to stay at home and learn from home. This does not only affect school kids, but also other learners. So this is the example of a company in Tanzania that came up with a learning app, with a very simple frugal learning app that helps students to learn through online media. So what you can see is that digitalization can actually be a strong driver for frugal innovation, and the current crisis has given a strong push to some of these solutions. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. So now you have to go next, because it's also animated. Yeah, thank you. That's it. Back. Okay, so just a few words about what is specific about our projects. As I said, we have interdisciplinary teams, so we have economists, engineers, psychologists and so on working together, and I would strongly recommend you to do the same, specifically for frugal innovation, because you have to understand the market really good. So it's good if you have a good team of somebody from marketing, somebody from R&D, somebody from manufacturing, and so on, working hand in hand. We work in a participatory way, so we train and consult at the same time. We have cross-industry experience. We are a very large organization internationally. We also have an Indian office, as you know. We have some test and demonstration facilities I'll tell you about later. And we're a non-profit organization, so we have a sustainable mindset. Next slide, please. This is an example of how we are currently working in a project with a small German SME. Here the case is the idea is the development of a mobile energy solution. And the reason for that is that less and less people work in an environment, as you can see here on the picture, where everybody has his small desk with his equipment and they go there every day. More and more people work at home, or they work in a cafe, or they work in an open workspace. So mobile energy supply is a big topic. Next, please. So what we're doing right now is we're looking into what could be a mobile solution for a more lively, mixed, open environment. Next slide. And this is how we do it. So there was a first idea for a concept, and then they first thought, okay, this is nice. We already have an idea what it should look like, and so on. But then they thought, okay, wait a minute, is this actually what's needed on the market? And if so, who needs it, and what should it look like? And this is when we started working together. So we started out making a market analysis, looking at what are the solutions already on the market. And now we're doing a strong customer co-design, and this is really important for frugal innovation from my perspective. So we're talking to a lot of the customers and customers who could potentially use it, like end users, but also retailers and facility managers and so on, to try and find out what the requirements are for such a frugal solution. And then in the next step, after we learned the key things, we will have a simple prototype and do some prototype validation as a next step. So we work in an agile development process, if you're familiar with that. At the same time, of course, we capture all the lessons learned and we update the concept. Next slide, please. We've also done a similar project in Malaysia with a Malaysian SME, where we talked to people and we established what is called personas, which is like a fictitious person. And that helped us to focus the solution for this specific market. Next slide, please. Another way of working together is cross-company innovation networks. We do that quite often here. We have about 20 of them. They usually run for a longer time frame. We currently do that together with a Turkish supplier association. And these companies come together at some spots in time for a seminar where we talk about topics of shared interest. We show them insight into tailored research. Of course, they talk a lot amongst themselves and share their experiences, and then we do one-on-one projects on the side. So this has been something we've done very successfully in the past and what we're doing right now. And here again, the change to an online format was pretty easy. We're really happy about that. And frugal innovation is one of the topics this network covers. Next slide, please. So besides that, of course, we do cross-company workshops and seminars, so like smaller formats where we just do one day of knowledge exchange or training. And we've done that, for example, in India and Tunisia. Next slide, please. I'm trying to be fast, looking at the time. Some of the success factors we found working with companies is there are 4 main success factors. The main one is empathy. You really have to understand what your customers want, what are their pains and gains, and you cannot get that by asking them. That's the problem, because they don't know or they can't tell you. So it's really important to come up with a clever way of finding out what the customer actually needs and wants. Then you need a lot of creativity. You need a lot of good inspirations of how you can be simple in a smart way. And for that, it's really good to look at other industry examples and also to look at what has been done in the past, what are the trends for tomorrow. So we have some creativity techniques that we use for that step. Radicality is important. You have to be radical. You have to make very radical choices. You cannot make everybody happy, but you have to make radical choices focused on your customer group. Otherwise, you end up with a solution that is kind of frugal, but not really, and then you don't win. It will just not be successful. And awareness, the last point, means don't just look at the solution, look at the business model too, because there's a lot of things all around, like the processes, the partners you have, the delivery channels that will have an impact on if you will survive or not, if you manage to scale up your solution or not. Also, the sales pitch is something that is really important for frugal innovation. Don't sell that as a cheap solution, okay, but sell it as a clever, simple solution. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, go on, please. Next slide. Okay. What we found is that a good combination of, one slide back, please, a good combination of agile approaches and more traditional approaches is really helpful. And as I said, business model design should be also considered while you go on. Next slide. And the following is an overview on some of the agile methods. I will cut that out. Next slide, please. We've been looking into specifically frugal business model designs, and we've made a collection of them. And next slide, please. Because we found that there are certain principles of how you can make your business model simple and affordable. And one of them, this is an example for one of them, is that you can make it short and small. So instead of selling something in big packages, for example, you can sell it in small portions. For example, the personal care providers often do that you can buy shampoo in a small package instead of a large one only, or that you have a very simple contract that you can get out of, very simple, but also enter very easily, like Netflix. So this is also how you can lower the barrier for customers if you allow them to enter a contract and also to leave it again, really simple. Another way of keeping it short and simple and small could be pay as you go. For example, there is a company in Africa that allows people to buy energy on a daily basis for a very, very small fee. And so this allows them to purchase an energy system, but not at once, but with very, very small payments every day. And this also lowers, of course, the barrier, because then they can profit from an energy supply, even if they can't buy a solar panel right now. Okay, so what we've done is we've looked at what are the typical principles, just like this one, and we've made a big collection at them. And this is really helpful to look at this if you design your solution. Next slide, please. Some trends and outlook. Next slide. We're currently doing some research on resilience in manufacturing. So if you are in manufacturing, how can you be resilient so that if you are hit by a crisis like COVID, how you can come back from that very fast. And this includes things like focus on the core functionalities, make everything adjustable, make everything modular, or have something like a business model that allows you continuous revenue streams instead of a one-off payment and so on. So this is one topic we're currently looking into. Next slide, please. Okay, here you also have to go next, please. Thank you. Back. So, and one of the trends that is really big here, and I would be really interested to find out if you can see that in India too. I know that it's also a big thing in Turkey, for example, and in some other European countries. It's a lifestyle of voluntary simplicity. So in general, there is a big trend and social trend that people try to live more simple, which means conscious consumption. They carefully select what they buy instead of just buying anything. They want to have fewer things, smaller homes, but instead a better work-life balance. They want to have a good ecological living and healthy eating and so on. So it tends towards, let's have a really good life with a lot of time for my friends, with a lot of that is very healthy, but not cluttered by stuff. Next slide. Next. Stop. Next. Yes. Thank you, Beck. And in general, it can be summarized as sharing instead of owning, meaning instead of status, personal growth instead of a high salary, and also decluttering instead of hoarding. I don't know how famous Marie Kondo is in India. It's a very big thing here. A Japanese lady that helps you declutter your home and to keep everything organized. So all of these things come together as a big trend that says actually having something smaller, more simple, does not mean restriction, but it can also make your life actually more interesting and more rich. Next slide, please. I think this is my last slide. We have a laboratory for frugal innovation in Stuttgart, and currently we cannot really use it, which is a pity. We managed to finish it before the COVID lockdown, but not now. It's just sitting there until we can come back. It's basically a space for working creatively on new solution. It looks very frugal. It has a lot of wood, a lot of plants. It's very simple and very adaptable. And it comes along with a demonstration area where we have some frugal exhibits and also a makerspace where you can take some tools and work on something. So this is just an invitation for you. Once COVID is better, I invite you to come along and have a look and to work with us there. And we're also planning to virtualize it. So hopefully in the next time you can have a virtual tour in it. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. It's indeed an enriching presentation with a lot of case studies on the frugal innovations. Friends, we are running short late, but so before we go for the question and answer sessions, I request my colleague Manohar for the third poll. Manohar, if you can kindly. Yeah. So can frugal innovation play a crucial role to rebuild the economy in India post COVID-19 pandemic? Yeah, we just wait from our audience for the poll. Can we have the results now? Yes, overwhelming majority said yes. Frugal innovation plays a role. I think everybody echo the same sentiments here. So for the delay, I leave it to you, my colleague, Mr. S. Manohar, is the regional head South to take you to the question and answer session. Over to you, Manohar.
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. Very interesting discussion with all the panelists, with all the presenters, right from Dr. Nagan Maya, Rajneesh Tiwari, and Ms. Lisa. And we had a lot of questions flowing in. There were too many questions, and since, as we mentioned, discuss is a paucity of time, let's focus on a couple of questions that would be quite interesting to across. I think I would start off with Dr. Nagan Maya. One question across, very interesting question across is, how can CMTI help the organizations? I mean, you spoke of a lot of organizations moving from what you call current status or what you call legacy machines to Industry 4.0. That's what everybody is aspiring for. So how can the organizations move from the current status and legacy machines for Industry 4.0? How CMTI would help them, or are they help them through research, or would they provide them with some support across? Yeah, Doctor, please. I think you need to switch off. You're unmuted, Doctor. If you can switch on your mic, please.
Yes. Is it audible?
Yeah. Yeah,
yes.
Now we are audible. Thank you.
If you come back to my presentation, I'd shown that smart factory. We are establishing this smart factory by 2020. It will be there. It is kind of a demo cell, come test bed center.
Correct.
For individual developer, they can use this as a test bed to test their solutions.
Correct.
For the user industry, they can can use this as a demo cell, so how smart factory looks like. And what components we have here is, we are basically what we are trying to do is, because we are conducting several awareness program, our suggestion is that don't change your resource.
Okay.
What Industry 4 is advocating is, all MSMEs are operating because of somebody, some Mishraji, Banerjee, or somebody.
Okay.
Those dependence can be taken over by the computational tools.
Okay.
And those computational tools again is expected to operate based on the real data which is acquired from the source.
Okay.
So now,
okay.
can I convert the legacy machine into a smart machine?
Mm-hmm.
So some
mm-hmm.
examples are already there. We have about 8 solutions. If any they can visit us, we will demonstrate.
Okay. Okay.
Then those are all smart factory is not ready, but converting legacy machine into a smart machine, already 8 solutions we have developed.
Okay.
And at the same time, there are also industries are working with us. So at the end of the project, so these solutions are commercially available, but through these industries.
Okay.
And if anyone wanted to convert their CNC shop as a smart shop, we are CMTI, we are also ready to take as a turnkey project.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Okay. So that we would help them across.
And in addition, also we can conduct training programs. At either is a customized training program. Otherwise, we offered 3 to 4 times program already conducted, about 6 times the programs related to smart manufacturing.
So from what you spoke, if I can put it in very simple for our participant to understand is, you would look at you have currently projects and you would look at the current projects and you would take it to the, you would help them provide the solution with yourself or to your partners, and also to provide them training to equip with themselves for their new smart manufacturing. Wonderful, that's excellent. Dr. Rajneesh, very interesting question across. Manufacturing process design in frugal engineering, it's traditionally APQ process is followed, but frugal engineering, is it more dependent on a product design or on engineering process? That's the question across. Because for example, the first participant has quoted an example like in print manufacturing, they have less control on product design, but can they innovate, and they need to innovate on manufacturing process. So in your understanding, is it more a product design innovation or business process, or manufacturing process innovation or engineering?
Thank you very much. The question is really interesting and intriguing. So I would propose that you need both. You cannot do without a frugal product design, and the manufacturing process would also need to be adjusted, because if it is not used to that, if it is not made for that frugality, for ensuring the frugality, then it will not work again. So I think we cannot do either or, it would be both of them as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. Lisa, how does the industry and R&D institutes like Fraunhofer Interact work in Germany? Are these projects initiated by the industry, or the institute look at possible projects and work with the industry across?
These projects I talked about, they're initiated by the industry, yes. We also work in funded projects, like funded by the European Commission, for example. But these projects are funded by the industry, yeah, or by, for example, some associations. Sometimes we also work with associations, and then
Yeah, good. I would like to ask all the panelists the last question, and let it be your last line of response on frugal engineering too, because I think we need to close it up since we are exceeded already on time. One question was, is frugal innovation or frugal engineering a culture or is it a practice? So this is something very important. I think one person has asked, I thought it could be the bottom line answer to, question to all the panelists. So I would like to all the 3 panelists to address this, and I would start with Dr. Nagan Maya. How do you address it? Is it a culture or a practice in organizations, Doctor?
No, definitely it was a practice, but now it has become a culture. It's becoming culture. Started as a practice. Started as a practice, but it's becoming a culture, organization culture now. This best example is the surgical tools cluster, which I mentioned.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is basically it started as practice.
Okay. And it involves a team cohesiveness, or is it a single individual drive across?
No, now it is a cohesiveness. If you remember some of the points Lisa talked about, so it needs multidisciplinary people.
Agreed. Correct. Very true.
So definitely.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Anmay. Very good reply. Yeah, Dr. Tiwari, please.
I guess it's like whether egg or chicken, because I think the practice would also have somewhere its root. And the roots could be again culture, but the practice will not take place. Unless a frugal culture is there, and the culture can only take root if the practice is really entrenching itself. So somewhere I think we have to make a start, and once you start with one point, the other one is bound to come if you want to continue with the frugality.
True. I think it's one starts and other begins, and one begins, other starts. So it's, as you rightly mentioned, it's a cycle through. Yeah, Lisa, we would like to have your last, but not the least, response from your end, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with you, Ranish. The two have they kind of necessitate each other. I think it's really important that you have a frugal mindset, that you see it like as an interesting challenge. Okay, let's come up with something that is really simple instead of something that is over-engineered, and you have to find people who are passionate about that. And at the same time, practice is important. So if you have the right methods, they can help you to do that. And as you go, as you work, what I hear often in companies is they start applying the methods, and then they get passionate about it, and then they develop the mindset. So yeah, it goes together. Yeah.
True. Friends, I think we need to conclude. Yes, it's been an interesting session, and we had good participation across from the beginning. We had almost, if I look at it, almost we started off with 150 plus people, and we have still got good number of people present across. And we had interesting questions from them. Let me conclude. Indian market thrives on differentiated segment of customers. They are the ones who drive demand and bring huge incremental sales and growth. It's the class of business, the traders, entrepreneurs, or the rural markets, which normally drive sales. In today's scenario, this is the class that is worst affected because of COVID, looking for conserving and resources. And this is where the frugal innovation would drive them and benefit them and help them across. Dear friends, when we had our Honorable PM mentioning about Atmanirbhar Bharat, and yes, aim is to decentralize and help in local building up local innovation, resilience, flexibility, and capacity building indigenization. Times are very difficult, no doubt, but he who knows resilience, he who shows determination, and he who shows foresight shall come out of this successfully. I would like to conclude with a Sanskrit shloka. Shloka for you, Lisa, is a sort of anecdote across. And from the epic of Mahabharata, one of the legends of India, which says, Yato dharmasteto jaya. Again, I'll repeat, Yato dharmasteto jaya. Where there is adherence to right action, there alone lies victory. Dear friends, I would like to let me thank on behalf of you, Dr. Mr. Gaurav Gupta, Principal Secretary, Industry and Commerce, Government of Karnataka, who gives brief address, explained to the participants the ease of doing business in Karnataka and how he's venturing his steps in driving the business in India, in Karnataka across. And also thankful to Mr. Rajesh Nath for giving welcoming speech across and thanking all the people, welcoming all the participants across. And Dr. Naganmaya for his wonderful talk on the various engineering products, which is very much suitable for the MSME sector and various methods he can drive it. And Dr. Rajneesh Tiwari for explaining the very simple concepts of frugal engineering, its various examples, and Ms. Liza too for showing us what are the paths of innovation in frugal engineering, how it can drive frugal engineering. Not but the least, we should thank all the participants who were present in such large numbers and have been stayed up till the end. I'd like to thank them all for being present today evening and sharing with us the questions and listening to the speakers. Thank you one and all. Thank you panelists. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much to you, Manoharji, for this wonderful moderation and taking all the pains. So thank you very much to you and Sandeep.
Not for the least, I should also thank Sandeep, my colleague who is also here, who has moderated the full session. Thank you, Sandeep, please.
Thank you all of you. Thank you for
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye. Take care. Okay.